So my wife and her partner in London just bought a bookstore, buy books, give books, BBGB. And so Peter King, who reads Sports Illustrated, if you don't read Sports Illustrated, it's got good sports pictures. It's worth that. So Peter King is an author, and he's got a writer in there, and he writes about things that he thinks he ought to be thinking about. And so as you always think about your job, your title, what you do, who you are, and why, always have a couple projects, just projects, not career moves, not decisions, or not titles on the business card, but just projects that kind of inspire you. And so as my wife and her partner have gotten into this, children's books and the influence on society and the influence on children and just literacy and all the things and all the implications that it has, I'm thinking about. So things I think I'm thinking about, children's books. What's the thing you think you're thinking about or should be thinking about just because you have a passion for it? So everybody okay? Crazy day, like crazy cool people up here on the stage telling you all kinds of content and cool things. And now I've been to 8 TEDs, and I think that's one of the reasons Steve wanted me here to give a little context, because I've been to 8 TEDs and I come home and Jill will tell you, my wife, that I have TED hangover. And I kind of walk out of there going, I have no idea what to do with any of that. Like, it's overwhelming. And so I kind of sit numb for about a week, actually. So I'm going to try to ramp up that learning curve for you and give you 3 ways of thinking about ways to access all the stuff you're thinking about. So the first one is creating space. And creating space is really important. And creating space is the idea of giving you breathing room. And so I was with a client in Napa Valley about 3 years ago, and we had a white van, and we filled the executives from this high-tech technology firm, and we put them in the van, and we said, we're going to drive around San Francisco in the Bay Area for about 3 days, and it's going to be a white van converted into a mosaic of all these writing and visions and beliefs and mission and strategies on the side of the van with dry erase marker. And just trust me, we're going to go see some cool stuff. And so one of the places we went was an organic farmer called Bob Kennard. And Bob Kennard is that grizzly guy like Robert Redford. Everybody has a crush on him, boy, girl alike, it doesn't matter. He's just cool. And so he takes us on his farm, we're walking around his farm, and all these high-tech, all these stuffy high-tech guys are saying, what can I learn in an organic farm? And I don't get it. We're high-performing. We're about measures. We're about performance, about Six Sigma, about getting it all done. We're about getting stockholder value and then rolling it out and spinning it off and all being billionaires. What can you teach me, Mr. Farmer Man? And Mr. Farmer Man, Bob Kennard, looked out at that big pasture over here, and it was this rust-laden tractor and hay bales, and it was just a mess. And he said, you know what's made in that farm over there? And they said, we don't, Mr. Bob Kennard. And he said, there's mushrooms that are sold at Per Se every night, French Laundry, the very nice restaurant in San Francisco. I've never been, but anyone ever been to French Laundry? Like, good, right? Like, really tasty good, like crazy, like I don't know, $10,000 for a meal. I have no idea, but a lot. And so they're like, what can you teach me from that, Mr. Bob Kennard? Because that's not anything about efficiency and effectiveness. And if we're learning about how to be a high-performing team and all about kind of the experience of seeing each other in different ways, what can you tell us about that we should take on with us? And he said, oh, you silly executives that make way too much money. What he said was, you have to look closely at that field, and it's a row of plants and a row of it's a row of plants and a row of weeds, and a row of plants and a row of weeds, and a row of plants and a row of weeds. Because in fact, if you have a row of plants, it'll suffocate itself to death. You need to give it breathing room. And on the way back, we wrote on the side of that van, breathing room and giving space. Create space for you to take all this amazing content home with you and do magical things with it. We're all working in the world of wicked challenges. All of us in the context of students, executives, or otherwise, academics, and everyone in this room has wicked challenges. Framing how to look at those wicked challenges is huge. Creating space. The second one is creating excuses. So I was in Austin, Texas, going to meet with this executive, and I was a little nervous, and I usually don't travel alone. And I called Jill that night, and I said, Jill, I'm in Austin. I don't know anybody. I'm kind of dressed like this. I want to go to a nice dinner and just kind of relax a little bit. And she said, go spend $100 all on yourself for a nice dinner. And I was like, that sounds great. Just like a great experience. I'm going to have a great experience. So I showed up at this really nice, kind of swanky little place. I was like, I'm going to spend $100 on a dinner all for me. Yes, I am. Yes, sirree. And the guy looks at me up and down, dressed as I am, and he goes, follow me. And he took that little leather thing, and he took me back in this labyrinth of the restaurant, and he parked me facing a wall, looking into the bathroom, and I went, no, you follow me. And I grabbed the leather thing out of him, and I went back and sat at the first stool at the bar, and I had a 4-hour dinner eating shrimp curl, drank Pilsner Urquell, ate a lot of bread because I'm Serbian and I love it, and I cried because the guy was Croatian, the bartender, I'm Serbian. We cried, we hugged. 4 hours later, watching the Yankee game, he gave me chef specials, and it was an amazing experience. No, follow me. Create excuses to give yourself the space and the experience to have that you need to have. Don't allow yourself to get run down the track of that life gives you and just say, not quite so fast. Let me tell you what I need to do, and I'm going to create an excuse in order to have what I need in order to do great things with everything that was said on this stage tonight. And the last one is creating inspiration. And so we've been informed and inspired by an enormous amount of inspiration in the last couple hours. And so I want to give you a little bit of context for how to continue to jab in that last business frontier, which is that source of inspiration. Same input, same output. A lot of strategies are built, but we have to inform them differently. New inspiration, create new inspiration, and don't have a hope strategy on inspiration. Be purposeful, intentional, and absolute about it. And so years ago, we were owed $93,000 from a very big company on Park Avenue, and I had tried everything. Western Union telegrams from my father's advice didn't work. Called my dad, said, Dad, I need $12,000 to make payroll. By the way, this was 1993. I had 4 employees, including myself. $93,000 is payroll forever for a 3-person, 4-person company, right? And so nothing. Called father-in-law, called brother, called dad. Nobody wanted to give the money, and they said, figure it out, you're creative. And so there we were. We sent flowers. We sent a nice, gentle letter from the lawyer. No response. 90 days late. The next day, I have to make payroll or else close shop. And so Anita, who was in charge of getting monies in for the company, because she kind of did everything, because 4 people, you do it all. And there it was. Anita said, Gecko, come on. And Gecko was my 43-pound golden retriever mutt. And she took Gecko and they walked around the block. And they walked around the block and they had a great conversation. And you need imaginary friends, by the way, and hers was Gecko because they'd had great conversations. And they got back to the IBM Selectric, and even this old in the room, IBM Selectric, and she types out this note and it says, Dear Laura, I'm a 43-pound golden retriever and I work at Play and now Profit. And I've been coming home to an empty dog bowl, and I don't know if it has anything to do with accounts receivable at the organization my dad works at, but if it does, I'd appreciate any consideration. Love you, Bow Wow Gecko. We then took that and we put it in the teleprompter, not email, not text, not fax, not any of those things, but a teleprompter for those of us in the room old enough. And it went, and it went through, and after that went through, we went, ha, 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 ha. Did we just do that with the biggest company in Park Avenue? And it was like our biggest account, and what happened? And then the next day, Jason, who's our UPS man and still our UPS man, now 17 years later, walked in and threw across the table a UPS, and inside of that UPS was a $93,000 check and a dog bone for Gecko. And I share that story because you don't think you can inspire the things you don't think you can inspire. What sources of inspiration, what people, places, artifacts, and otherwise can you bake into that thing you're trying to think about? Create space, create excuses, and create inspiration. Go change the world. I believe in you. Cheers, and let's have a beer. Bye.